Hello, and welcome to Cocktails with a Twist of History. We bring history to life through cocktails. Okay, so we have been talking about the Tequila Daisy, the tequila itself, and the margarita we're going to talk about as well. First, let's continue talking a little bit more about tequila. Tequila is made from a plant called the agave. Now, the agave, it looks like a cactus, but it's really in the lily family. I don't know that much about plants, but that is what they say. It does have a really nice flower on it. Interesting, I heard that when growing the agave plant for tequila, they cut off the flower so that the sugars stay in the plant, and that helps make the tequila much better. The plants are actually pollinated by bats. There are a lot of bats in that area, and they go around, and that's how they get pollinated. By the 1500s, the Spanish were in Mexico, and they wanted their Spanish wine, they wanted their brandy, but Spain decided that they were going to start taxing it. And they were very high taxes, and so the Spanish said, hey, we're going to drink this thing called tequila. Originally mezcal, a little different, but they started drinking tequila. By 1608, there was a push by Spain to tax tequila as well. And that was very unsuccessful because they just really were not close enough and people weren't paying the taxes. So they were drinking tequila and they were not drinking as much Spanish wine at the time. It wasn't until 1949 that the Mexican government really came up with the law to say what tequila was considered and what laws you had to follow in order to call it tequila. Still, 1949 is not bad. That was when they ratified what tequila would be exactly. The plants are grown also in a couple of different areas. Now, we said it has to be grown in the area called Jalisco, which is on the Pacific side of Mexico. And the city that it came from, the original city, was a city called Tequila, which is how it got its name. But there are highlands and there are lowlands in that area. And the highland plants tend to be a little bit sweeter. The lowlands have a little bit more volcanic ash, and they tend to be a little spicier. If you're looking at a bottle, you can see sometimes it'll say highland tequila or lowland tequila. And if you're looking for a particular type of flavor, that's how you can help to see which one it is. Kind of sounds a little like the whiskeys, the highlands and the lowlands as well. And the same idea, each area has its own type of unique flavor. There are also different kinds of tequila. There's the blanco, or the white tequila, which is either unaged or aged up to 2 months. Then you have the reposado. Again, my pronunciation of Spanish is not great, I apologize, but the reposado is aged up until a year in oak barrels. The añejo is aged a year or more. And then in 2006, they came out with a new category called extra añejo, which is aged 3 years or more. And then very recently, they came out with another category called cristalino, or crystal. And what they do is they take the aged tequila, which as it ages, it darkens. They filter it, and it becomes clear again. Now, this also gives the tequila a little bit of a silky quality to it. Now, I will tell you that not all the cristalinos are worth it. As you go up in these levels, it gets more expensive. So reposado will tend to be more expensive than a blanco. Extra añejo is more expensive than añejo, which makes sense. It's got to age more. But not always does it mean that it's a better one. And also, with tequila especially, very interesting, just because it's more expensive doesn't mean that it's better. I have had a lot of tequilas that are less money and twice as good. So, whiskey doesn't always follow that rule. It does, it doesn't. But tequila, you really have to be careful with that kind of stuff. Now, let's take a quick peek then at some of the tequilas. We showed you the reposado one, and you can see it has that darkness to it, which is really nice. We're going to get a new shot glass, right? And we're going to put some of this over here. This is the reposado. And let's have a taste of that. This is what we drank before. Cheers. Very, very nice. You can see that it is really a different category than the other alcohol, than the other hard alcohols. It tastes very different. It has a little bit of an herbal flavor. It has a little bit of a sweetness to it because agave is a sweet plant, and it is just delicious. As opposed to the Cristalino, which is yet again clear. Now this was dark, and then they filter it and it becomes light again. The name of this company is Don Roberto. Don Roberto is also a very nice one and highly recommended. This one, there's a few others like this that are recommended. Let's take a taste and we'll see the difference between the Reposado and the Cristalino. And again, these are number of categories above. Cheers. Oh, big difference. This is much smoother. It really goes down like you're not drinking anything. You can taste the sweetness. You can taste that it's tequila. It still has that very distinct taste, but much, much better. It has the silkiness to it that is really nice. It is delicious. Yeah. There are those that say, oh, I can't drink tequila anymore. If you drank it in college days, it's a different tequila. Try it again. You may find that it's different. Okay, let's move on to the margarita. So the margarita is interesting because it has so many different stories that are attached to it. It's very hard to know which one is the real one. But I'm going to tell you the one that I think is the real one. At least it's the most entertaining. It's the one that makes sense to me. And like a good cocktail, it's a combination of couple of different stories that seem to make sense together. So, in a place called Garci Crespo Spa, which is in Tehuantán, Mexico. No idea where that is, but it's an area of Mexico. There was a Spanish ambassador that was visiting with his daughter, Margaret. And they wanted to create a cocktail in his honor. So they created it for the daughter, really. Anyway, they said, Daisy, since this is a type of daisy, the original daisy, and the daughter's name is Margaret, and Margarita means daisy, so they found that it was fitting to say, hey, let's create this drink for this ambassador, and we're going to showcase our pride, tequila. Now, this was about 1936 that all this is going on. The name of the guy in the bar was Danny Negretti, and this is as the story was passed down. Let's make a tequila. Let's make a margarita. Again, we're going to need a shaker. We're going to need our tequila. We're going to put 2 full ounces of tequila into this margarita. And I always want to make sure to measure it properly. There we go. That was 2 ounces of our tequila. Now, the original Daisy, we said, was a hard alcohol orange and lime. So we are going to use a triple sec. Sometimes people use Cointreau, which is a little bit of a fancier orange liqueur. And we're going to need an ounce of triple sec. Here is our triple sec. There we go. And we're going to need an ounce, of freshly squeezed lime juice. Always fresh squeeze this stuff. It really does make a big difference. Ooh, look at that. Perfect amount. I pre-squeezed it so that I could do it for you guys and not have all that stuff, having to get in the way. Here we go. Now I've got my shaker, and like I always say, put in a lot of ice. I always put in the ice after I put in the alcohol because I don't want it to sit in the ice and get too watery. Here we go. I have it in the shaker, put on the top, and Where is my, oh, here we go. Couldn't find my cover. Make sure you got the cover on. As I always say, make sure to hold it and shake. Now, there are some cocktails that really need a lot of shaking. The ones like this, they just need to be mixed together. They just need to get cold. You need a little bit of the dilution, and so you really don't need to shake that long. Now, very interesting. For some reason, the margarita has always traditionally had a salt rim on it. And the way you make a salt rim is you take your lime and you go around the edge of it, and then you dip it in the salt. And we're going to do that. I've heard some people that like to put it on just half of the glass, and that gives the person the option of either drinking it with the salt or without the salt. I tend to have a margarita without any of the ice inside of it. Here we go. And here, this is a margarita glass. It is a little bit larger because it has the juice in it, and it has a stem because it doesn't have the ice inside of it, and I don't want to warm it with my hands. And cheers. Ooh, that is really nice. Very refreshing. It has that lime that comes out in the forward. It has the salt that really brings in the flavors of the tequila and the lime and the orange. It is just a delicious drink. As we've said before, it's interesting that the margarita and the daiquiri were some of the cocktails that sort of got killed in the commercialization of cocktails. These were the ones that were brought back in the classic cocktails, and they are really worth it. Having one made like this versus one with the slush, very, very different. This is so much better. It does often have a lime for a garnish. I didn't put one on right now. I'm just going right in and drinking. It is interesting that even way before this, in California, in the newspapers, in the 1930s already, it was already saying, quote, "She's from Mexico, senoritas, and her name is Margarita Cocktail. And she is lovely to look at, exciting, and provocative." That's a quote. I like that one. And it really is an amazing cocktail. There are those that actually say, interesting, they first documented this ingredients in 1937 in London, but it wasn't called a margarita. Maybe, maybe not, but it really is a good cocktail. It's hard to know exactly. Like always, though, if you've heard other stories, please tell us. Please put it in the comments. Please email it to us. Also, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to put something in the comment. Ring the bell. Subscribe, follow. We want to know that you're out there so that we can bring you more features from Cocktails with a Twist of History. Thank you.